The Alpha King betrayed her, expecting tears. What he discovered in her bed changed the pack forever. The Iron Fang Kingdom stood beneath a restless sky. High stone walls surrounded the castle, carved with ancient wolf symbols that told stories of bloodlines and battles long forgotten. Silver banners moved in the wind like silent warnings. The air always smelled of pine trees, cold earth, and something older, something that watched from the forest shadows. At the center of it all ruled Alpha King K.L. Thorne. He was not just a king. He was a storm in human form. Tall, broad-shouldered, and sharp-eyed, K.L. carried authority like armor. His presence alone could quiet a room. His voice could command warriors twice his size. From a young age, he had been trained to rule without hesitation. His father had told him once, "A king who doubts loses everything." Kyle had taken those words into his bones, and so he did not doubt. Not his strength, not his decisions. Not his right to rule. Beside him, for 3 years now, stood Ilara. Ilara Thorne, the Luna of Ironfang. She had entered the kingdom not with loud pride, but with gentle light. Her beauty was not sharp like a blade, but soft like moonlight through trees. Long, dark hair framed her calm face. Her silver-gray eyes held depth that most people did not understand. She did not speak often in public councils. She did not raise her voice. She did not demand attention. And K.L. mistook her silence for smallness. In the beginning, he had loved her quiet strength. He had loved the way she looked at him, as if he were not only king, but man. She had soothed his restless nights. She had listened when war plans troubled his mind. She had walked beside him in forests where no crown existed. But power changes men who are not careful. As Iron Fang grew stronger, enemies grew closer. Rival packs watched the borders. Political alliances became necessary. Barricale began to believe that softness was a risk. And Ilara, with her calm grace and quiet wisdom, began to look to him like something fragile. The pack elders whispered too. They said she did not command fear. They said she was too gentle. They said the people needed a Luna who inspired strength, not peace.
Kale listened. He did not notice the way Ilara's smile slowly faded in public halls.
He did not notice how often she stood alone by the castle windows at night. He did not notice that she had stopped speaking in council not because she had nothing to say, but because she was no longer heard. The breaking point came during the winter assembly. All high-ranking wolves gathered in the grand hall. Torches burned bright against the stone walls. Warriors lined the sides of the room. Elders sat at the long oak table carved with the mark of the first Alpha. The air was heavy with tension. A messenger had arrived that morning from the Bloodcrest pack, proposing an alliance, but the alliance came with a condition. Iron Fang must show united and unquestioned leadership. Rumors had spread that their Luna had little authority. It was a challenge. Kale stood before the hall in full ceremonial armor. His black cloak fell behind him like shadow. His golden crown caught the firelight. Ilara stood at his side, dressed in silver silk, a small moon-shaped mark resting at her collarbone. She held herself straight, calm, composed. The elder, Rowan, rose from his seat. Alpha, Rowan said carefully, The Bloodcrest leader questions the strength of our Luna. They believe she does not command the pack as tradition demands. Operation. The hall grew quiet. Elara did not move. Operation. Her face remained serene. Kale's jaw tightened. Brr.
He felt eyes watching him, waiting.
Brr. Judging. He could have defended her. He could have spoken of her wisdom, her loyalty, her guidance. Instead, fear disguised itself as pride. Brr. Strength. Kale said slowly, his voice echoing against stone, is proven through dominance, through presence, operation, through command. He turned his head toward Elara. She met his eyes without fear. Something flickered there, something he could not name. For the sake of Iron Fang, Kale continued louder now, I will temporarily relieve Luna Elara of her ceremonial authority. Gasps moved through the hall like wind through leaves. Elara did not gasp. Operation. She did not cry. She did not even blink. I will stand alone in negotiation, Kale finished. Until strength is unquestioned. Silence fell heavily. Brr. The words hung in the air like frost. Every wolf in the hall felt the shift. The bond between Alpha and Luna was sacred, not easily set aside. Not publicly questioned. Kale expected resistance. He expected Elara to speak, but she remained still. Slowly, she stepped forward. She bowed her head once, not deeply, not submissively. Just once. As my king commands, she said softly. Her voice did not shake. That unsettled him more than tears would have. Without another word, she stepped back from his side, and something invisible cracked between them. The assembly continued, but no one truly listened. The fire torches flickered strangely, as if disturbed by unseen wind. Outside, clouds began to gather, though no storm had been predicted. When the meeting ended, whispers filled the corridors. Some wolves looked confused. Some looked uneasy. Some, quietly, looked disappointed. That night, the castle felt colder, bare. Kale dismissed his guards and walked alone through the long hallway toward his chamber. His boots echoed against stone. Bare. His mind was restless, but he told himself it was necessary. A king must make hard choices. A king must show control. She would understand, he told himself. She would forgive him. She had always forgiven him. He pushed open the heavy wooden doors to their chamber. It was dark. Only moonlight streamed through the tall windows, silver and pale. Elara, he called calmly. No answer. Her side of the bed was untouched. Her jewelry box was closed. Her dresses still hung in the wardrobe, but she was not there. His chest tightened. He moved to the balcony. The wind brushed his face. The forest below stretched endlessly, shadows shifting beneath the rising moon. Bye, Elara, he called again, louder now. And then the temperature changed. The air felt charged, alive, trembling. The The moon above began to glow brighter than usual. Not white, burnt, not silver. Red. A deep, haunting red. Kyle stepped back slowly. Inspiration. From the center of the chamber floor, faint lines began to shimmer. Thin, glowing marks spread outward like roots beneath stone. Inspiration. Ancient symbols he had only seen once before, in forbidden texts locked beneath the castle library. Runes. Inspiration. They glowed softly at first, then stronger. The bed, the place where he had expected her to weep, now stood at the center of those symbols. Inspiration. Moonlight poured down onto it like liquid silver. And standing within that light was Elara. Inspiration. She was not crying. She was not broken. Her long hair moved as if touched by unseen wind. Her silver eyes glowed faintly. Inspiration. Not bright, not violent, but awakened. Carl felt the bond between them pulse sharply in his chest. Inspiration. Not warm, not comforting. Distant. Elara, he said, but his voice no longer sounded commanding. Inspiration. But it sounded uncertain.
She looked at him.
And for the first time since he had known her, he felt small.
You wished for strength,
she said gently. Brrr. Her voice carried no anger. That frightened him more than rage would have. I have hidden it long enough. The runes around her brightened. Kale's wolf stirred uneasily inside him. Inspiration. Ancient instinct recognized something older than alpha authority. Something royal, in a different way. You are my Luna, he said, trying to regain control. She tilted her head slightly. Inspiration. I was never only that. Outside the castle, wolves began to howl, not in aggression, not in fear, but in confusion. The earth beneath Ironfang trembled softly. Inspiration. The red moon hung heavy in the sky. Ko took a step toward her. The runes flared brighter, stopping him in place, not harming him, warning him. Power does not always roar, Elara said quietly. Sometimes it waits. He realized then that he had never truly asked who she was before she became his mate. He had seen her beauty, he had seen her calm, but he had not seen her history. Inspiration. And now it was unfolding before him. The bond between them flickered like a fragile thread stretched too thin. Elara, he said again, but this time it sounded like a plea he did not intend to make. She looked at him with something that almost resembled sadness. I never wanted a throne, she said. I wanted partnership. Partnership. Not dominance. Breath. Not control. Outside, the red moon burned brighter. The runes began to rise from the floor like glowing mist. And as Kale watched, realizing too late what he had done, the ancient power beneath Ironfang territory awakened fully. And it answered to her. The chamber doors burst open as guards rushed toward the sound of the tremor. But they stopped immediately, dropping to one knee without understanding why. Because something in their blood recognized her. Inspiration.
Not as Luna, not as queen,
but as something older. Elara stepped forward from the glowing circle. The light dimmed slightly, but it did not disappear. She stood tall. Begging. Transformed. Kale, Alpha King of Ironfang, felt the ground shift beneath the weight of truth. Inspiration. He had expected tears. Instead, he had awakened a force that could change the pack forever. Inspiration. And as the red moon hung over the kingdom like an omen, one terrifying thought entered his mind. What if the pack no longer needed him to lead? The night stretched long over Ironfang Castle. Storm clouds moved slowly across the sky, casting the land in a flickering shadow. Somewhere beyond the walls, the wolves of the pack stirred, their restlessness growing with every passing hour. Inside, Kale Thorm could feel it, the unease that now threaded through the kingdom itself. It was not rebellion, not yet. It was a recognition of a change, of a power that had been sleeping, waiting for a moment like this. Inspiration. Waiting for her. Elara did not sleep. Bird. She stood in the center of the chamber, her feet bare against the cold stone floor, the runes glowing faintly beneath her. Moonlight spilled over her shoulders, illuminating the faint mark at her collarbone, the moon-bound symbol, a legacy of queens long forgotten. Brr. For centuries, her bloodline had carried magic older than kingdoms, older than kings. Magic that was meant to protect the balance between the natural and the supernatural, between the human and the divine. For years, she had hidden it. For years, she had chosen loyalty to Kale over the call of her heritage. But betrayal had awakened her, and betrayal demanded balance. Kale stood by the balcony doors watching her, every muscle in his body tensed. Inspiration. His mind raced. He had expected tears. He had expected apology, confusion, maybe even the quiet bowing of her spirit to his authority. He had not expected this. Elara turned slowly, sensing him behind the shadow of the doors. Her gaze, now alight with a soft, celestial glow, met his. Inspiration. She did not speak immediately. Instead, she let the runes speak for her. The glowing runes, the soft hum of energy beneath the stone, the sudden hush of the night. The air itself seemed to lean toward her, waiting. Kale swallowed, struggling to find words.
Hello! What is this?
His voice sounded smaller than usual. Almost. Fearful. This is who I have been all along, she said finally. Who I am. Not just your Luna, not just your mate, but a descendant of the Moonbound, a guardian of the pack, of the land, of something far older than either of us. Inspiration. Kale took a cautious step toward her. Each movement felt measured, as if the air itself resisted him. You hid this from me?
I did, she admitted, because I chose love.
Inspiration.
I chose loyalty. I chose you.
I thought that being with you, walking beside you, was enough. But you, her voice trembled slightly, though her posture remained strong.
You chose to doubt me?
You chose to expect tears? Kale flinched. The words struck him harder than any blade could have. He had believed that his decisions, his rule, his control, were what protected her, but he had been blind. He had mistaken silence for weakness, devotion for dependence, love for submission. Inspiration. Elara's eyes softened for a brief moment. I never wanted power for myself. I never wanted the throne for its own sake. I wanted to serve the pack, and you.
But strength comes in many forms, KL, and you have not seen the full measure of mine until now.
Brr. The runes around her glimmered brighter, tracing patterns in the air like silver threads. A soft wind moved through the chamber, though no window was open. The hair on Kale's arms stood on end. His wolf stirred uneasily, sensing the surge of energy. Brass. Wolves beyond the walls howled long, uncertain cries as though they felt the pulse of the magic emanating from the castle. Kale stepped closer, trying to regain the calm control that had always defined him. Brr. Elara, this power, it could change everything. Bray.
It could. I know, she interrupted gently. I know what you fear.
Bert. But it is not meant to destroy, Kale. It is meant to restore. Inspiration. Kale's gaze softened, but the unease lingered. Restore? The pack? He asked. Or us? Elara took a step toward him, the glow from the runes reflecting in her eyes. Both. The only sound was the faint hum of energy around her, the distant whisper of the wind, and the restless stirrings of the wolves. Kale could feel the bond between them, once warm and unshakable, now stretched taut by the weight of truth and power, inspiration. He reached out slowly, but she did not move closer. Instead, she raised her hand, palm up, letting him see the faint silver glow that danced along her fingers. Inspiration. This bond, she said softly, was never mine to control. It has always been mutual. Breath. But strength, true strength, comes from choice, Kale. Not command, not fear. Inspiration. He stared at her, the words settling like heavy stones in his chest. The man who had ruled Iron Fang with certainty and dominance felt uncertain for the first time in his life. The wolves he had trained to follow him without question now stirred nervously in the shadows. Even the castle seemed to hold its breath. Perhaps. Kale's hands dropped to his sides. He took a step back. I expected you to break tonight. I expected tears. Inspiration. Elara's lips curved in the faintest of smiles, sad, almost regretful. Inspiration. But you found the truth instead. He could see it now! He had not weakened her. He had unleashed something ancient, powerful, and beautiful. Something that demanded respect, not fear. Something that made him realize how little he truly knew about the woman he thought he had claimed. The glow in her eyes pulsed gently, like a heartbeat. Kale felt his own pulse echoing it, caught between awe and dread. And the pack? He asked quietly. If they see this, they will see what I am, she said. Inspiration. And perhaps what they need. Kyle's mind raced. He had built Iron Fang on loyalty and fear. Bear. He had ruled through strength and certainty, but strength alone could not bind what he now saw before him. A storm of loyalty, wisdom, and power radiated from Elara, and he felt the walls of his own authority trembling. He remembered the assembly, the whispers of the elders, the doubts of rival packs. Bah. He realized now that the danger had never been from outside. The danger had been from within, his own assumptions, his own arrogance. Brr. He swallowed. And me? He asked, voice almost a whisper. Brr. Where does that leave us? Elara stepped closer, the glow of the runes dimming slightly as if acknowledging the closeness between them. If you wish it, Kale, it leaves us inspiration. But you must see me as I am, not as the woman you hoped I would be. You must see my strength, my choice, my will. Only then can this bond endure. Burrs. Kyle closed his eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of his mistakes. For years, he had tried to protect her by controlling her, by expecting obedience and devotion without question. But now he understood that protection was not domination. Love was not submission. And loyalty, true loyalty, could not be demanded. It had to be earned, respected, and shared. Bert. When he opened his eyes, he saw her standing tall, luminous, commanding, yet gentle. She was no longer merely his Luna. She was a force of nature, a queen in waiting, a guardian of something older than any crown.
I do not know if I am ready, he admitted, voice low.
I do not know if I can match you.
Elara reached out slowly, resting her hand lightly on his chest. The energy from her touch was warm, grounding, and terrifying all at once.
Inspiration.
You do not need to match me, she said. You need only stand beside me.
Inspiration. That is enough. The room grew quieter. The room grew quieter. The storm outside seemed to pause, listening. The wolves in the distance fell silent, as if acknowledging the truth between them. Inspiration. Cale felt the pulse of the bond shift, no longer strained or distant, but alive with possibility. For a long moment they simply stood there. Two hearts, two wills, two destinies converging in the quiet glow of ancient power. Neither one spoke, for words were insufficient to capture the weight of the realization. Finally, Elara stepped back, her gaze sweeping the room. There is more to this, she said. More than what I have shown you tonight. The moonbound gift is not without cost. It requires balance, sacrifice, and wisdom. And the pack may not be ready for what is coming.
Cale felt a shiver run down his spine. Then we must prepare them, he said.
Together. Elara nodded, though her eyes carried a hint of worry. Together. But know this, Cale. The moment I step fully into this power, there may be no turning back. And even then, I may choose a path you do not expect. Bale's heart clenched. The thought of losing her, even to destiny itself, was unbearable. Yet he knew she spoke the truth. She was no longer a silent partner to his rule. She was a queen in her own right. He swallowed. Then I will not try to hold you back, but I will stand beside you. Whatever comes, we face it together. Elara's lips curved in a faint, approving smile. Then we begin, she said. But first, you must see the world through my eyes. You must understand the balance before it is too late. The red moon outside now hung low, bathing the castle in crimson light. Shadows moved across the walls like whispers of ancient wolves. The air felt alive, charged, and full of possibility. Cale looked at Elara and realized, with a sudden, terrifying clarity, that his life and the pack itself had shifted irreversibly. He had expected tears. He had found power, purpose, and destiny waiting in her eyes. And he knew, with the certainty of a wolf sensing the storm before it breaks, that the next steps would not be easy, but they would be theirs to take. The sun rose over Ironfang Castle with a pale, cold light, washing the towers in silver. But beneath the castle, the land seemed restless. Wolves wandered the forests in quiet confusion. Rivers ran a little faster than before. Trees whispered secrets that had been buried for generations. Kale Thorn, Alpha King of Iron Fang, had never felt uncertainty like this. He sat in the great hall, alone, staring at the empty seat beside him. Alara's absence from the throne was not permanent. She had not left the castle. Yet by stepping into the moon-bound power fully, she had shifted the balance that had kept the pack together. He remembered the night before, her glow, her calm strength, the way she had looked at him, not with fear, not with submission, but with authority, veneration, real authority. It was nothing like he had known. Veneration. And now, he realized, it terrified him. The pack elders entered the hall, their expressions a mix of concern and caution. Alpha, Rowan said, bowing lightly. The Bloodcrest pack has sent envoys again. They demand a meeting. They wish to see Iron Fang's strength, or they will seek alliance elsewhere. Kale nodded, but his mind was elsewhere. Arrange the meeting, he said quietly. But he hesitated, choosing his words carefully. Veneration. Is handling matters that must not be disturbed. Rowan's brow furrowed.
Alpha! If the Luna wields the moonbound power openly, the pack may not follow your command as before.
Some may even question your authority. Kale's jaw tightened. Veneration. Authority. That word, once absolute in his life, now felt fragile. Veneration. He had ruled through dominance for decades, his command unquestioned, his decisions final. But dominance alone could not bind what he saw in Alara. Her presence inspired loyalty, yes, but in a different way. Respect, not fear. Trust, not obedience. He had expected control. Baradai. He had expected fear. But the pack did not fear Alara. They were drawn to her, and in their gaze he glimpsed a truth he could not deny. His reign, however strong, was no longer unchallenged. Kale left the great hall and walked through the castle corridors. He passed guards, scholars, and servants, each moving silently yet carrying a weight in their eyes he had never seen before. Veneration. Whispers followed him. Soft, uncertain, curious. They sense it, he realized. Veneration.
They sense her power, and they know I am no longer the only center of strength here.
The first sign of fracture came that very afternoon. A young warrior, barely past his training, approached him with a trembling gait. Alpha, I must speak, he said.
Kale raised an eyebrow. Speak, soldier. The boy swallowed.
Veneration.
Some of the hunters, they say Luna Ilara has touched the sacred forest with her moonbound gift.
Veneration. That the trees and rivers obey her. That the wolves gather for her, not for you. Kale's wolf stirred inside him, restless, anxious. He glances around in desperate. No, he thought, this cannot be happening. I am Alpha. I have led this pack for decades. Yet the evidence was undeniable. Outside, the forests were alive with energy. Wolves lingered near the river's edge, staring toward the mountains. Even the oldest trees, known to resist change for centuries, seemed to sway in acknowledgement of her presence. He realized then that he had miscalculated. Not in her loyalty. not in her power, but in his own understanding of leadership. Desperation. For the first time in his life, Cale felt the cold taste of fear, not for himself, but for the pack, for the balance that must hold between Alpha and Luna, for the lives he had sworn to protect. That evening he found the trail she had left in the forest. Desperation. Moonlight guided him through twisted roots and silent shadows. The air carried a hum of energy almost like a heartbeat, and he felt it pull him forward, closer to her. He found her at the edge of the cliff overlooking the Iron Fang River. The moonbound glow surrounded her, soft and radiant. Wolves crouched nearby, silent, respectful, alert. She was alone, but not lonely. She was gathering the exiled, the weak, the lost. Wolves who had once been shunned by the pack now moved toward her like moths to light. Cale's chest tightened. This was not rebellion. This was restoration. She was healing what he had ignored, what the pack had suffered under his single-handed rule. "Elara!" he called, his voice low. She turned slowly, silver light illuminating her face. "Cale," she said, "you came." "I needed to see," he admitted. "I needed to understand." She studied him for a moment, then gestured to the wolves. "These wolves, they remember only fear. They follow strength, But strength alone cannot lead them. Love, care, guidance, stronger than dominance. And the pack has begun to feel that. Cale's hands clenched. "And what of me?" "You," she said softly, "are still needed, but differently than before."
If you cannot change, if you cling to the old ways, the pack may not follow you.
I cannot force loyalty. I can only inspire it. The word struck him deeper than any blade. Cale had never realized that leadership was more than command. He had been alpha for decades, ruling by fear, shaping loyalty through strength alone. And now, he was being tested. Not by enemies beyond the borders, but by someone who loved him. He stepped closer, cautiously, the moonbound energy brushing against him.
It did not harm him.
It did not obey him. It obeyed her. "I have been blind," Cale said, voice low. "I thought I was protecting you." He glances around in desperation. "I thought I knew what was best."
You were protecting a version of me that did not exist.
You cannot protect someone from themselves, Cale. You can only walk beside them. The wind picked up, carrying the scent of pine and rain. Wolves howled in the distance, a chorus of anticipation, uncertainty, and longing. Cale's wolf stirred, uneasy, sensing the shift of power.
"I am not ready to lose this pack," he admitted. "Not to anyone, not even you."
You are not losing it, Elara said gently. You are learning to share it. That is the only way it will survive. For a long moment they simply stood together, the wind and the moonlight wrapping around them. Cale felt the weight of decades on his shoulders. and the lightness of understanding in the presence of someone stronger than fear.
Then came the true test.
A rival pack from the north, once considered weak, had crossed into Iron Fang territory under the cover of night. They moved quickly, attempting to take advantage of what they believed was Kale's faltering authority. The first reports reached him just as the storm began. Fire at the outposts, wolves missing from patrols, the sound of growls that did not belong to Iron Fang. Kale's instincts screamed. He grabbed his cloak and raced toward the battle. But when he arrived, he found something he had never anticipated. The wolves of his pack, the strongest and most loyal warriors, were not responding to him. They were surrounding Elara, not in fear. Not in obedience, but in protection. She stood at the center, the glow of the moon-bound light surrounding her like armor. Wolves that had been exiled, young and old, weak and strong alike, moved as one under her guidance. Burst. Every strike, every movement was precise, instinctual, almost impossible to fight against. She was not just leading them. She was commanding through inspiration. Kale felt a pang of fear and awe.
The pack would follow her before him, not because they abandoned him, but because they recognized the truth.
She was needed in a way he never had been. He stepped forward anyway. "Ella!" he shouted. "Do not fight alone!" Her eyes softened briefly. "I am not alone," she said. "I have you, Bray."
You just need to remember how to stand beside me, not above me.
The battle raged around them, but Alara's presence transformed it. Wolves moved with grace, with unity, with power that Kale could not command. Enemies faltered, not understanding what they faced. Even the wind seemed to obey her, pushing at their adversaries, guiding Iron Fang wolves toward safety. By the time the northern pack retreated, it was clear who had led the victory. Kale had fought bravely, yes, but the pack had fought because of her. When the last enemy fell back into the shadowed forest, Kale approached her. His chest heaved with exertion and emotion. "I see it now," he admitted. "I see the power, the bond, the respect."
Elara reached for his hand.
The glow of her magic brushed against him gently, reassuring, grounding, but not diminishing. "Then learn, Kale. Learn to lead with me, not for me." Kale took a deep breath. The weight on his shoulders did not lessen, but it shifted. He realized that to truly lead Iron Fang, he must surrender the illusion of complete control. He must embrace partnership, respect, and trust.
Only then could the pack thrive. The wolves howled beneath the red-tinged moon.
Not in dominance, not in fear, but in unity. And for the first time in decades, Kale felt hope. He had expected to remain the center of power. Instead, he had discovered that his true strength lay in standing beside Elara, not above her. The dawn broke slowly over Iron Fang Castle, the pale light washing over towers blackened by storms and moonlight. The red moon of the previous night had faded, leaving only silver traces in the sky, but its memory lingered in the castle halls. Whispers moved through corridors like shadows. The moonbound power had awakened fully, and the pack had felt it. Kale Thorne stood at the balcony, watching the first rays of sun stretch across the mountains. He had fought for decades to hold the Iron Fang pack together. He had ruled with certainty, with strength, with fear. Yet none of it had prepared him for this, the awakening of Elara, birth. The transformation of the Luna he had always thought he knew. She was no longer just the woman beside him. She was something older, stronger, and far wiser, and he could feel it in every fiber of his being. She had become the heart of the pack. Kale felt the weight of his mistakes heavy on his shoulders. For years he had believed that protection was domination, that love was obedience, that loyalty was silence. He had expected tears, submission, surrender. Instead, he had found power, dignity, and choice, and the realization that the pack and his heart had never truly belonged to him alone.
Elara!
He called softly. She appeared behind him, moving with the grace and confidence of a queen. Her silver eyes reflected the sunlight, faintly glowing even in the morning. Her hair caught the light like dark silk, and her presence carried a quiet authority that no crown could grant.
You are awake early, she said, her voice calm yet strong. Thinking, I suppose.
Always, he admitted. I have been thinking about what I have lost and what I have been blind to.
Elara stepped closer, placing a hand on the stone railing beside him.
The pack is changing, she said, and so are you. You must accept that. He turned to her, searching her face. And if I cannot, then you will fall behind, Kale. But I have faith you will not. You are not weak. You just need to learn. The truth in her words struck him harder than any battle ever had. He had led armies, conquered rivals, claimed loyalty through fear, yet nothing had ever been so difficult as accepting that his authority was no longer absolute. That love required surrender, not control. That strength required humility. Then teach me, he said quietly. Teach me to stand beside you.
To lead with you, not above you.
That is the first step. Outside the castle, the pack stirred. Wolves moved along the cliffs, through the forest, drawn instinctively toward her presence. They did not follow Kale blindly anymore. They were not afraid. They were loyal, yes, but loyalty born from respect and love, not fear. Kale felt a pang of jealousy.
And immediately, guilt followed. For decades, he had ruled them as he ruled himself, through certainty, through control.
And now, he saw the depth of what he had been blind to. Elara's hand rested lightly on his arm. Do not grieve, she said softly. This is not a loss.
This is the beginning. You are part of it, but it is bigger than any one wolf, any one king.
He nodded.
I understand.
I think. Bert.
You will. In time.
The morning passed and news arrived that rival packs were on the move, sensing weakness in Iron Fang. Kale felt the old surge of protectiveness rise. Despair? He wanted to command, to control, to strike before they could.
Elara placed a hand on his shoulder.
Wait, she said firmly. Do not act from fear or pride.
Let the pack act as one. Let them see what unity means.
Kale's wolf growled softly at the restraint, but he obeyed.
He had no choice. She was teaching him patience, the patience of leadership beyond fear. By midday, the rival packs had approached the borders. But instead of chaos, something remarkable happened. Both old and young, strong and weak, moved as one. They had learned from Elara. They had felt her presence. They protected the borders, defended the lands, but not as soldiers under command. They acted as a family under guidance. Barry. Cale watched, amazed.
He saw wolves he had trained from pups coordinating with natural instinct, instinct sharpened and directed not by fear of him, but by respect for her.
Desperation. He realized then that his strength, while formidable, was incomplete without hers. When the last rival retreating into the shadows, Cale finally allowed himself to breathe. Desperation. He felt relief, but also humility.
And then he turned toward Alara.
Barry. You did this, he said softly. Bird.
We did this. You are part of it too, Cale.
But you must understand, authority is not about being above. It is about being among. You lead, yes, but you walk beside. You guide, not rule. Kyle nodded slowly, feeling the weight of her words.
He had ruled for decades, yet never truly understood the meaning of leadership.
Until now.
Even the elders began to notice.
Bird. They approached, bowing low before Alara, acknowledging her strength. Cale felt a flicker of pride, but it was tempered by humility. He could not take credit for what she had inspired.
Alara, Rowan said, voice steady. The pack is changed. We see your power and your wisdom.
But the Alpha King. He hesitated, then met Cale's eyes. He must also be part of this. Can you lead together?
Alara.
He met her gaze, feeling a silent question between them. Could he let go of the old ways? Could he step down from the throne of fear and stand beside her as equal? He took a deep breath.
I will,
he said quietly.
If it is what the pack needs, and if it is what is right, I will stand beside her, not above.
Not apart. Beside her. Alara nodded, a soft glow of approval in her eyes. From that moment, the Iron Fang pack began to shift. Wolves who had once followed Cale out of fear now followed both of them out of respect and loyalty. Warriors who had doubted the Luna now moved in harmony with her guidance. Exiled and young wolves, long abandoned by the pack, returned healed and strengthened by the moon-bound energy. Cale observed it all, feeling the strange mixture of awe, humility, and love swelling in his chest. He realized that his greatest victories were not battles won with force, but battles of understanding, of partnership, of unity. That night, under a silver moon, Cale approached Alara once more. The wolves had gathered in the valley below, howling softly in harmony, celebrating not dominance, but balance. Alara stood beside him, her glow subdued, but still radiant. The air was charged with ancient magic, calm yet potent.
Kyle, she said, voice gentle.
Look at them.
The pack is stronger because they feel our balance, because they see us as equals, not ruler and subject.
Cale reached for her hand. And what of us? He asked. She smiled, taking his hand in hers. We are the same as them. Stronger, yes, but also equal. Together. He felt the warmth of her hand, the steady pulse of her presence. For decades, he had believed that love meant possession. That loyalty meant obedience. That strength meant control. But now, he understood. Love required respect.
Loyalty required choice, strength required humility.
Brit. The Iron Fang pack had changed forever, and so had he. Operation. Outside, the wolves howled again, a song not of conquest but of unity. Mountains echoed with their voices, rivers reflected their light, and the land itself seemed to lean toward harmony. Bray. Kale turned fully to Alara, his heart full. I expected tears, he said softly, almost a whisper.
Elara laughed gently, a sound like wind over leaves. And you found something better, she said.
Brett. Yes, he admitted. I found a queen, and under the silver moon Kale and Alara stood together, equal, united, and ready to lead not with fear, but with wisdom and love. The pack would follow, not because they had to, but because they chose to. The moonbound power was no longer a secret. It was a force of restoration, guidance, and hope. And from that night on, Iron Fang Castle was no longer ruled by a single Alpha King, but by two hearts, two minds, and a bond that could not be broken. The red moon had faded, but its lessons remained. And in every howl that echoed through the mountains, every whisper of wind through the trees, every shadow beneath the cliffs, the story was told. The Alpha King had expected tears, and instead discovered a queen. And the pack would never be the same.